I actually think a lot of parents are walking around in survival mode and calling it tiredness. At first, it makes sense. You've had a rough week, the kids aren't sleeping, school is stressful, can't keep up with work, you've got appointments, paperwork, finances, washing, dinner, and approximately 57 billion other invisible responsibilities that nobody else seems to notice. Of course, you're tired. But after a while, something changes. The exhaustion stops feeling temporary and starts feeling normal. You get so used to carrying everybody's emotions, appointments, worries, behaviours, school stresses, and daily life that your own nervous system forgets what calm even feels like. Because it happens so gradually, though, many parents, like me, don't realise that we're burnt out until we're already deep inside it. So today I want to talk to you about what parental burnout actually feels like, why parenting neurodivergent children as a neurodivergent yourself, or just trying to look after your children in today's society, can absolutely intensify it, and some of the things that have genuinely helped me start finding my way back to myself over the last few years. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Liz Mears. I'm a neurodivergent parenting coach. And more importantly, I am a parent myself. I am ADHD, probably got some autism in there too as well, but haven't gone for diagnosis. And I am here on the internet trying to help everybody feel a little less alone, because whilst I was on this journey, trying to get the help that my son deserved and for my youngest, I felt completely alone. And I don't want anybody else feeling like that. What parental burnout actually feels like. One of the reasons burnout can be difficult to recognise is because it just doesn't look dramatic, quite frankly. Most people imagine somebody having a breakdown like they do in the movies and they're collapsing under pressure. And in reality, burnout is often so much quieter than that. It can feel like being touched out before lunchtime, if not breakfast, snapping over tiny things that wouldn't normally bother you. You're feeling constantly overstimulated by noise, questions, interruptions, and demands. And it can look like hiding in the toilet for 5 minutes because they might leave you alone for 2 minutes, who knows? Or sitting in your car before you come back into the house because you just need one more moment to yourself when nobody's asking something of you. And it can also look like something I class as a revenge bedtime procrastination, which is where you're staying up too late, far later than you know you should. You just absolutely must have some time to yourself where you are not belonging to anybody else, not being touched out, not being asked. And so therefore you stay up too late scrolling on your phone or watching TV or reading a book. I've done it myself. It can also look very much like brain fog, forgetfulness, irritability, numbness to the world around you, detachment to what is going on, and feeling ineffective, no matter how hard you're trying. But burnout isn't a weakness. It's literally what happens when the demands on you exceeds your capacity for too long. I think one of the reasons burnout is so common in our community of neurodivergent parents and carers who are looking after neurodivergent children, is that we are advocates, we're researchers, we're administrators, appointment coordinators, therapists, emotional support humans, safe spaces, crisis managers, and caseworkers, all rolled into one. We are attending all the meetings, we're writing all the emails, we're up at 2 a.m. in the morning looking up the law around how to get our child the education that they need for Section 19. We're teaching our children to regulate, which of course we should be doing anyway, but it's the sheer amount and volume, if you like, that is being put upon us trying to navigate the systems that becomes too hard because those systems aren't working well themselves. We live our lives on high alert, anticipating the needs of our children before they even happen. We're scanning for problems before they become problems, and we're mentally planning three steps ahead all the time. And those things aren't what the average person does, but that's what we do just to even say try and take our children out for the day. We're mentally scanning, already what could go wrong and how could we lessen the impact on our children so that they can enjoy the day. And that level of hypervigilance changes your nervous system over time, and it doesn't change it forever. But it does mean that your body learns that it always needs to be alert and it always needs to be ready and it always needs to be watching for the next damn thing. Um, and eventually that becomes incredibly difficult to switch off, but it can be done. So I wanted to give you ideas today of what has actually helped me over the last few years to cope, to live, to carry on, because at the end of the day, we're doing this for our kids, aren't we? And they are absolutely the reason that we keep going. One of the most useful things that I learned was understanding my own risk factors. And it might be interesting for you to grab a notepad and write down what you think your own risk factors are. For me, they were poor sleep, 100%. If I don't sleep well, nothing functions. It was having too many appointments and putting them too close together, not asking for them to be at a different time of the day because they'd been offered at 9 a.m. But actually, in my heart, I know that that ain't going to happen. But I didn't ask for it to be changed till 11. So it's things like that, understanding myself, that have helped a lot. Understanding that I need quiet time, too much noise triggers me, too many demands, conflict, the constant transitions can all push me much, much closer to burnout. And so knowing your own risk factors, whilst they are not going to stop burnout completely from happening, they are going to help you recognize when you're approaching your own limit rather than discovering you've already deep dove into it, right? One of the big ones for me as a Virgo is that I have had to let go of perfectionism. I genuinely think that perfectionism at its core is wonderful, but it goes too far and makes you want to be perfect at everything. And this whole perfect parent culture that we've got going on since the internet came about is just burnout wearing a pair of Jimmy Choos, right? It's no good. We cannot heal from burnout while simultaneously trying to be the quote unquote perfect parent, perfect advocate, perfect partner, perfect employee, perfect human. Sometimes healing looks a lot less like meditation, although we'd like to do that, and more like accepting that today's a PJ day. We're going to have freezer food for dinner. And that's absolutely okay because everybody's fed and comfy and warm and safe. The other thing that has helped me has having micro resets. So tiny moments that I have consistently integrated into my day to allow my nervous system time to exhale. That can look like sitting in the car for 5 more minutes before coming in, letting the kids run on in first so that I can have that. It can also look like just standing outside and listening to the birds whilst I maybe even have 2 sips of my cup of coffee. I understand the problems, if you like, that you're up against in not finding that time for yourself. And we can come up with all the excuses under the sun as to why we can't do them, and I did for a good many years. But actually, once I started creating little tiny things for myself, like once I knew the kids were okay and in the house safe, but they were perhaps being noisy and playing, I would put in some noise cancelling headphones, like obviously nowadays they're loop. I like a loop. But just because they're not misbehaving, they're just having fun. But I personally need a bit of quiet time. I've been known to go up to the bedroom to sort out my wardrobe when actually I'm just sitting on my bed for a minute because I just need to breathe. I just need somebody. Well, I just need nobody to be near me, basically. And those are the kind of things that have really added self-care into my routine in a manageable way. And so it's about creating those tiny moments of relief and then using them every day. So I'd be interested to know what your risk factors are and what your micro resets might be. Big thing that I discovered from the very beginning is community. Now, yes, I am very blessed to have my partner and to have a mum who loves me dearly as well and helps out. But obviously, whilst all this was going on, my mum was still at work, so she wasn't available physically to be here, even though she wanted to be. And my partner was working. So I had people at the end of the day and the start of the day to talk to. But during the day, when I was struggling to get my child to school and he was having another meltdown because he just couldn't face it, and I was in tears because I just couldn't make it better for him, the biggest shift happened for me when I found online communities where I could start talking honestly with other parents who actually understood. And for quite some time there, I didn't even engage. I didn't even post. I just read. I just lapped it up. I just listened to what other parents were saying, because the fact that I knew when it did come time for me feeling brave enough to post that I wasn't going to need to go in there and go like, but this is why this happens and this is why that happens and rah, rah, rah. They would just be like, just give us the nitty gritty. They will account for all those nuances and help you in one way or the other, whatever they can. And quite often it's not that they have the answers. Sometimes they do, which is fantastic. But mainly it's just being heard and knowing that we're not the only ones sat at home, you know, wondering what on earth to do next. So, nervous system regulation can be a bit of a buzzword, can't it? But it is really fundamental to us looking after ourselves. And it's not about, expensive wellness practices or becoming perfectly calm all the time, because that's not going to be happening, is it? It's not realistic. It's actually about your body remembering that it doesn't need to stay on high alert 24 hours a day. It's about allowing yourself to breathe. It's about noticing tension in your own shoulders, taking a longer exhale. I've just done it myself now. I've put my feet flat on the floor, grounding myself in the present moment, because my support needs to be sensory quite often. And I also need to give myself permission to pause. And that's something that I'm still working on to this day. All of these things I'm still working on to this day. It's just I have started wonderfully putting them into my daily routine, which is helping me. Parents and carers aren't broken. We're just having a completely normal response to prolonged stress. Alongside that, of course, the elephant in the room for me particularly was sleep deprivation. When you've got children that can't sleep, or you must be up looking after them medically, physically, spiritually all the time, you end up on 4 hours sleep and not a lot else. And most people, I dare say all parents and carers, know that they should be getting more sleep, and they'd very much like it. Thank you very much. We're not staying up till midnight because we're irresponsible. We are staying up because everybody's asleep. The house is blissfully quiet, and you just want to enjoy that for half an hour, and the time just rocks on by, because it's wonderful to not have people needing you constantly. And unfortunately, though, of course, the downside to this is that even though you've had that quiet time, you're going to pay for it the next day. You are going to be tired and not function to the best of your abilities. And this was probably the thing that I struggled the hardest with to get control of. I don't think a lot of people sleep particularly well when they're parents, do they? But there's definitely the length of time it goes on for is longer when you have children that are autistic or ADHD or some other disability, right? All that to say that revenge, procrastination at sleep time is very, very normal. And trying to find a way through that is incredibly important to you functioning better in the day. And so I wonder how that might look for you personally, to be able to ask something else of your children. And maybe it's something for the future when they're a bit older that you can then say, look, mummy really needs this, daddy needs this. Please, can we try this and see how it goes? And it can be really scary to do that. And I'm not taking away from that because I was really scared to ask that. But actually, everybody's fine and everybody survived. And we're doing a lot better because of it. Another great big help for me has been boundaries and learning that I can have boundaries and hold them with love, but absolutely mean them and stick by them. We are quite often overloaded with emails and phone calls and, WhatsApp groups and the internet notifications, work. Oh gosh, just everything. And so for me, having phrases that I can use to hold boundaries lovingly but assertively has been really important. With school, particularly things like, I'd like that in writing. Could you send me that as an email? I'm not sure of the answer to that. I will get back to you. I can help you, but not this week. And when it comes to school and appointments and things like that, yeah, we want to be there and we want to fix things, but you equally should be able to say, I'm not sure, I will get back to you, or can I have that in writing? And that's absolutely okay to do that because every yes that you give without putting down that boundary when you're burnt out is just gonna eat away at you. So put down those boundaries, and I think you will learn that it becomes one of your most valuable resources and it feels less uncomfortable to say the more you practice doing it. Coming to the end of this video now is that it's not your fault. And I think this part really, really matters to parents like me and you, carers like me and you, because we blame ourselves all the time for struggling. But look at what we're being asked to do, right? We're raising children with less village support than previous generations had. There isn't a lot of, so and so around the corner's mum has been keeping an eye on us and given us water or popped in for a coffee, or we don't have that. People are working a lot of the time now. There's not mums at home like there used to be, or dads at home like there used to be. Services are stretched, families are stretched, expectations on everybody are enormous now. And we're still expected to parent intensively, work productively, maintain relationships, look fantastic, right? Go to the gym, look after the house. The house needs to be a showroom and all these different things. And somehow in all of that, you're supposed to find time for self-care and personal growth. And honestly, it's a wonder that not everybody's burnt out, quite frankly. So you're not failing. You're very overloaded with what is going on in the world right now and what is going on in your particular world right now. We are trying to keep up with systems and expectations that ask far more of us as human beings than is actually reasonable. So if you are feeling burnt out, I'd like you to hear this today. Your nervous system is responding exactly as a human nervous system responds. You need support, you need rest, and you need understanding. And I think it would be fantastic for you to be able to reframe some of these challenges in the way that I've managed to myself. It's not going to work overnight, but it is going to work if you consistently recognize your risk factors, take a look at what helps you, try and think outside the box again for your own self, because I know that you're out thinking outside that box for your children. Well, if you want to be there and the best parent you can, I think the way you can do that is to think outside the box to help yourself, because you're really freaking important. You deserve the same compassion that you are giving to your kids. So stop blaming yourself for being human. Start recognizing just how much you've been carrying all along. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's given you a little bit of information for you to think about and integrate into your own lives. It would be an absolute pleasure for you to subscribe. Please like, comment, let me know you've been here, and let me know what your one reframe and takeaway from this video has been. I'd love to hear it. Until next time, see you later. Love you. Bye.